Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast of Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I am joined here, as always, by a man who will most certainly not be replaced in the offseason. Kyle, how are you doing?
That's reassuring that I'm not going to be replaced. I'm doing good.
Uh-huh.
So we're in our official off-season mode for podcasts. So this will be interesting. We let our hair down, and I become a lot more less serious, I think, in the off-season. Usually
Yeah.
I'm pretty hard-nosed. So
Right. We definitely get more silly during the offseason, which is saying something because we're very silly in the regular season as well.
yeah, I mean the general consensus is people don't take us seriously, and I don't think we take ourselves seriously, so it's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, we put a lot of effort into our opinions, and then we acknowledge that they're probably going to be wrong. So who cares at the end of the day? Nobody knows anything. Let's just have fun.
Yeah, I mean, if talk about the Bengals making the Super Bowl, who would have predicted that at this time last year? Nobody. So nobody
Right.
knows anything. You're right.
Yeah. So we have for the lay the groundwork for what this show is going to be. We're just going to bounce around several different categories today. We'll talk more about Super Bowl 56. We're going to give our thoughts on the awards and all those that were given out because we didn't really get to talk about that because obviously the Super Bowl was right after. We're going to do how we love our drafts. We are going to draft the new head coaches that have been hired from our favorite to least favorite. And then finally, or these aren't in order, but the other one we're going to do is the quarterback carousel, kind of give our opinions on which quarterback is going to end up where. So that should be fun. It should be interesting. And also, Kyle, I realized this. So I put Kyler Murray as the thumbnail for this video on the YouTube channel, and I did not put the Cardinals down as a team that I considered one of the teams that could need a new quarterback. So bad job me.
Bad job, you. But if we want to start there, I'll go ahead and say Kyler Murray will be the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah,
next
sure.
year.
Right. Yeah. It seems like, to talk about that for a second, let's do that. So we're going to do the quarterback carousel first. This just seems like it is all a way to, it's a negotiation tactic. Isn't that what it feels like?
It feels like it. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I've become, and maybe I just watch too much NBA, which I do watch too much NBA. If you ask my wife, I spend way too much time watching NBA.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I think if we learned anything from NBA, we don't actually know how these people feel about anything. Like, these people might be the most unhappy people on the planet, and it's probably true. I don't know. I don't know how he feels about the whole situation. I don't understand what exactly he'd be super upset about. I think they've done a pretty good job of tooling a roster around him. And I don't know what Arizona would be unhappy about. I think he's done a pretty good job of leading this team. This is going to be a theme of our quarterback carousel tangent. With a lot of these superstar quarterbacks that we're believing might get moved, that isn't involving a free agency move, is involving them forcing a trade out. I'll believe it when I see it. Right now, the Cardinals have zero incentive to trade Kyler Murray. And we've seen now with the way the NFL is that you're looking at the quarterbacks in the NFL right now. You're looking at Patrick Mahomes playing in Super Bowls, Joe Burrow playing in Super Bowls, Matthew Stafford getting the upgrade, and he's playing in a Super Bowl. Going through the list too, you have Justin Herbert coming up. Josh Allen's been right there on the cusp. Tom Brady, who just retired, has been right there on the cusp and then won a Super Bowl last year. No one's trading a franchise quarterback unless they absolutely have to. And I'm not ready to believe that the Arizona Cardinals absolutely have to trade Kyler Murray right now. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, here's an interesting thing about the Kyler. We're going to spend a bit on Kyler, but that's okay because I think it's an interesting discussion. Here's the thing with Kyler Murray is the reports are he wants like $45 million a year, $50 million a year. I think the reports are he wants like $50 million a year. Now that might just be a negotiation tactic. You start high and go lower. And I think some people are saying, well, that's an insanely high number. When Dak Prescott said $40 million a year, that felt like an insanely high number. He eventually got that. And I guess the thing is, can't you see some team paying, like if he says, I want $55 million a year, couldn't you see some team throwing that to him? Like, I don't think that's that crazy if he were to hit the open market. And so for the Cardinals, like, you don't want to let that happen. The flip side is it's impossible to win a Kyler Murray trade unless Kyler Murray sucks, like unless Kyler Murray falls off a cliff. If Kyler Murray continues to play like Kyler Murray did this season, like winning that trade is going to be very difficult. So I think that they'll probably just, shell out the cash and make it work.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that they'll make it work too. But yeah, I mean, so just a few years ago, it was pretty much the widespread belief of the next like top 10 quarterback, fringe top 10 quarterback to hit the market is basically going to be the next highest paid player in the NFL.
Hmm.
That was the going belief for a number of years. It's why Kirk Cousins at one point I believe was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Hmm.
It's why I believe Stafford at one point was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Jimmy
It's
Garoppolo was the highest paid quarterback after playing like 5 games.
Yes.
Hmm.
Obviously, you look at Dak, you look at Mahomes, they're getting their contracts. So
Hmm.
now all of a sudden, because Mahomes got that $50 million contract, we're saying that quarterbacks aren't going to be the highest paid in the NFL. I just don't believe that. If you said to me, if you asked me right now in 5 years, 5 years from now, let's fast forward 5 years, do I think Patrick Mahomes going to be one of the four highest paid quarterbacks on this current contract? I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be because that's just not how the NFL works. It's top dollar for a quarterback, and it just happens when it's your turn to get paid.
Yeah, I think someone will make it work. Let's bounce around because we're kind of when we're talking about general, just general thoughts about all of this. Let's kind of keep with some of these. What about the Packers? The Packers, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Packer next year, right?
That's what I have too.
Hmm.
Like I said, I'll believe this stuff when I actually see it.
Hmm.
I believe that the Packers are going to do everything they can to make Aaron Rodgers happy. And you know what? At his age, he could be the one with the most negotiation power to say, okay, I'll just retire then. You can start over with Jordan Love. But at the same time, like, so if the Packers' solution is to either, you know, play with Aaron Rodgers or let him retire and, play their first round quarterback they invested in, wouldn't the Packers just say, "Okay, don't play then"? Like, why would
Uh,
they trade him to somebody else?
yeah, that's an interesting point, and I actually kind of thought about the same thing, similar thing with like Brady. There's talk about if Brady was going to come back. Part of me wondered if the Buccaneers, if Brady does say he's going to come back, I would almost just say like too bad. Like you're retired now. Either you play with us or you don't play with anybody. And if you want to stay retired, fine. Like you could make the same argument for. Yeah, it's not a bad point. Just sort of basically say like we don't want you blocking us by playing for the Broncos or something. John in the chat says, "Is Zach Wilson going to be any good? I want to buy a bunch of his rookie cards, but I don't want to waste any money." I mean, who knows if anyone's going to be good, but there's reason to believe it. This might be a buy low, sell high kind of move, getting to Zach Wilson rookie cards.
Um, yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, the thing
Hmm.
is with, quarterbacks, it's kind of proven that year after year, it's about a 50-50 chance that the rookie quarterback's going to be good or bad. I mean, you can go basically from 2000 to now, and it's about 50% work out. So
Hmm.
I think he's good. I think he's talented. He showed some flashes at the end of the season. If you're feeling like you want to invest low, do it.
Yeah. Also, someone asking, can you talk about Aaron Rodgers' breakup? I don't have too much opinions on that, but yeah, Aaron Rodgers is now a newly single man. Maybe he'll do what a lot of I think single men do and just put a lot of time and effort into their work. So maybe this is just a get back to work with the Packers.
I guess.
Hmm.
Um, I don't have any opinions on this.
Okay.
I briefly know who the girl is from that Divergent movie,
Yeah.
which was terrible, by the way. That
I
was
haven't seen it.
yeah. She wasn't very good in it, so I don't know.
Okay. All right. Kyle, our movie review of Divergent coming out next week, I think is what we're going to. That's
It's
another
like a
off-season
10-year-old movie.
we're hey, perfect timing. Yeah. Seattle Seahawks. Is assuming Russell Wilson's going to kind of fall in line here, right? He ends up staying with Seattle.
Yep, I'll believe it
Yeah.
when I see it. I don't think it's
Hmm.
going to happen. I don't think that they're going to trade their quarterback. I can't believe they're just going to run it back with the same thing. Like I honestly can't believe they're just going to say, "Okay, let's try this again." It looks like it's
Right.
going to be the same exact team next year.
Yeah, there's been no Pete Carroll move. I mean, yeah, we'll see, but yeah, it doesn't seem like they're doing too much different. I guess like the only way that one of these star quarterbacks actually is going to get traded is right would just simply them either like the team doesn't want them anymore or them just saying like I'm not going to play for you unless you trade me. Like that seems like the only way that one of these guys is going to go, right?
Yeah, and honestly, if you were to rank like those three guys we just talked about, it seems like Russell Wilson's the least likely to be like, "I'm not going to play unless I'm traded." Like
Right.
it seems like he wants to be the good guy through all this,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to force his way out of Seattle.
Yeah,
So
it seems like his expressing displeasure has been like, "Hey, it'd be kind of like okay, kind of cool if you guys maybe spent a little bit more money on offensive line. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't be mad at it if that's okay with you guys." Like that seems like very much how Russell Wilson is going about this.
yeah, he could also
Mhm.
release the ball quicker. That would help.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's get into some interesting ones now. Tampa Bay
Okay.
Buccaneers. Buccaneers. Who do you have going to the Buccaneers?
So this is interesting because I basically broke it into a couple different tiers. There's
Mm-hmm.
basically the high tier guys, which was going after like an Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. I didn't think
Mm-hmm.
any of those guys moves. I think they're standing pat, which I have a few teams standing pat with their guys. I have teams going after those mid tier guys, which
Mm-hmm.
are like, or not mid tier, I want to say next tier of guys, not the superstars, but pretty good quarterbacks. Then there's the draft option. And then there's basically the poo-poo platter option, which is getting stuck with like the crappiest situation possible, which is your
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Bridgewaters, your Jameis Winstons, basically guys in that range. I kind of have the Buccaneers in one of those poo-poo platter spots.
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna want to trade this team a quarterback right now? I don't think it's gonna happen. I think that they're gonna shoot for just about everybody. I think they're gonna call about Kirk Cousins. I think they're gonna call about Matt Ryan, even though I don't think there's any chance of that happening. I think they're gonna call about Derek Carr. I think they're gonna call about Jimmy Garoppolo. I just don't know if any of these moves are actually going to work out in their favor. I kind of see them ending up with like a Bridgewater or like a bridge quarterback this year, and that's where I have them going.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I have one other name that you didn't mention that as a Buccaneers fan, I would feel very weird about this, but from a football perspective, there's no denying it would be a great move. Would be to Deshaun Watson, that's who I put down because there's been some rumblings of this. Tampa Bay has shown they're not afraid to have guys with those kind of allegations on their roster with Jameis Winston and Antonio Brown, and the other fast. I mean, Deshaun Watson would have to sign off on it because he has this no trade clause. We still don't know. Like, is he going to get suspended? What's going to happen there? And also the X factor as well of he's not going to cost that much. Deshaun Watson's going to cost if he gets traded. Remember, the Texans have to eat the signing bonus. He would cost $24 million. I think Deshaun Watson's going to end up on a football team. I think that's going to happen, whether it's this year or next year. I think it's going to happen. And there's for a team like Tampa Bay. Like if you're Bruce Arians, you might say, listen, I don't got many years left. I don't want to deal with a rebuild. If you're Jason Light, you might say, listen, I don't want to be seen as just the guy who brought in Tom Brady and that's all that happened. I'm not saying, again, I'm a Buccaneers fan. I'd feel very weird about it, but I think that there's at least some smoke here.
Yeah, I did have them moving to a new team. I didn't have the Buccaneers on the list, but
Okay.
I think a lot of what you said makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if this team ends up with a Jimmy Garoppolo, are you happy?
I'm not. Yeah, I would say yes. And like the other options I put on the table would be I have Andy Dalton, who I actually think that kind of feels like a perfect Bruce Arians fit, right? Of like this kind of veteran guy who has a big enough arm, can make that work, and seems like kind of like a project that he feels like he could take. Also, Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz does have a cannon of an arm. I wouldn't be mad at that either if he does become available. But yeah,
What about Jared Goff?
yeah, I would be all right with that too. I mean, the contract's not great, but I think those caliber of players I'm fine with. Again, the hope is that we get a Aaron Rodgers and everything's perfect. But I think there's a legitimate chance that we go into the season with Blaine Gabbert as our starting quarterback. So I'm not too optimistic or
Yeah,
I'm not going to be turning down too many offers.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean it is dire right now, so I do think they end up with something. I gotta say though, I've been hearing a lot of the Garoppolo talk. I think that's a terrible fit. Like,
You're not the only one
I,
who says that. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that really would work too well unless Arians is willing to change.
hmm
But he is someone who's going to be available, so it's a question. Now the Goff thing is actually kind of interesting because I actually, from what I remember hearing, is that like the Goff is basically a 1 year contract at this point.
Yeah.
Like you can basically get out of it with like a $10 million hit for the rest
hmm
of the contract if you cut him next year. So maybe a team says, "Hey, let's just bring him in and see what we can get out of him." I think he'd be an interesting trade chip.
Yeah, I don't. I think that makes sense. Like, listen, he has gone to a Super Bowl. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that whatsoever. You're right, and he has that one. And it's kind of if it doesn't work out this year, you can get rid of him. So, I agree. Let's go to who do you have for the Vikings?
Kirk Cousins. I think it's going to be
hmm
really interesting to see, like if he's talked about moving. If they just hired their new coach, so if they want to move on from him, I do think that this would probably be the chance with new coach, new GM, that kind of thing. But if you want to stabilize your organization with the new leadership, doesn't it make sense to just keep as much talent as possible for now and then figure it out later if you want to move on? Like O'Connell's going to have a really good situation when he's coming in with Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen. Um, is that is that someone you just want to get rid of? Like, you better have a really good plan for replacement if you're going to move on for Kirk Cousins, I think.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Cousins' contract isn't great. For his cap it's 45 million. He was really good last year though, so like
Yeah.
he's not. There's definitely value, and like if you get Kirk Cousins, I mean, like you're probably getting at least 2 first-round picks for him. I think a team would do that. I think like I think a Denver would consider doing that. So there's definitely some value. I also have Kirk Cousins though, and we can even just kind of a few in the same tier. I just feel like the most likely scenario is they keep Cousins. Although, again, with this analytics general manager, kind of the first real analytics guy as a general manager with the Vikings, there are people in the analytics community who feel like a Kirk Cousins on your roster is a hindrance, not a good thing, because you have to pay him so much, and it kind of prevents you from being able to get that superstar quarterback or being able to build like an elite roster around them. And the Vikings, they have a lot of holes in this roster. They have some good stuff in it, but they have a lot of holes as well. So that's why I wouldn't be shocked to see him move, but I do think the most likely scenario is he stays with the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, so I think we can all universally agree that like Kirk Cousins as a quarterback is probably overpaid,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can all agree with that. But here's the question: could the Vikings find an upgrade for next season?
Right.
And
Well,
do
yeah.
you
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and do you want to upgrade when you still have guys like Thielen, when you still have guys like Harrison Smith, when you still have guys that can make impact that aren't exactly young anymore? Do you want to have those guys? Like, even Dalvin Cook probably still has maybe 1 or 2 good years left, knowing the state of running backs. Do you really want to sacrifice those couple of years, knowing that you probably can't find an upgrade for him this season?
It's interesting. It's very interesting. I get both. I mean, the question is, I mean, you have Kellen Mond, right? If you like him, you say, the question is, would you rather have Kellen Mond and $35 million, or would you rather have Kirk Cousins? I'd probably rather have Kirk Cousins. Give me the guy who's going to give me tier 2 quarterback play, and I'll overpay it, and I'll find other ways to make it work. Similar stuff with the Falcons, who I also have Matt Ryan staying with, but it's kind of a very similar conversation there.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this because we're going to go through a few teams here, but of the tier 2 quarterbacks or teams that we have on our list with probably tier 2, tier 3 quarterbacks,
Hmm.
would you say Ryan's the most likely to get traded?
There's a very good chance Matt Ryan is traded. Probably. I don't think this is crazy. I think it comes down to how much do the Falcons like Matt Ryan. Do they want to go with a rebuild here? Because it's you kind of get caught in a weird spot with Matt Ryan, but not much else. Of how do you build the roster around him? I think that there's a very good chance like him going to a different roster would make some sense. And again, I think teams are going to be more willing to make a Matthew Stafford like trade now that they've seen how well that worked out for the Rams, even though that's a bit results oriented. But I think sometimes these general managers and head coaches think results oriented.
Yeah. So I had the Falcons as well with Matt Ryan, but I also listed and draft. I think
Hmm.
that they draft a quarterback this year. Having a quarterback like Matt Ryan, one of the nice things about it is you can kind of get one of these quarterbacks that you might view as a project and try and figure things out and let him develop under a quarterback who has a lot of experience too. So I could see them jumping the gun, trying to get a guy like Malik Willis, taking Willis and Ryan into the season and seeing what they can, seeing if they can develop a guy like Willis and then let Ryan play for a couple years.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. Raiders, same thing. I have Derek Carr staying with the Raiders. I think that I don't think that they'll get rid of him, and I think that he likes being at the Raiders. I think he just wants more money.
I think that they'd have to get blown away with an offer, right? Like that they would have to probably get 2 or 3 firsts, I think.
Right for the yeah, I think so as well. I think that yeah, that feels right.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I have Carr too. I think that this basically would just work out to Carr's going to get a contract.
Hmm.
Like I said, I think I said it in one of the earlier things, just talking about end of season for Raiders. I don't think he plays this year on a 1 year contract. I think he's either traded or he gets a new deal, and I think it's probably like a 90% chance he gets a new deal, and maybe a 10% chance he's traded. And there's another team where it's like, okay, I think there's a slight chance he gets traded, but if he's getting traded, it's getting a guy like Aaron Rodgers. They're not trading him to like rebuild. At least that's my opinion. This team made the playoffs. It wants to keep this positive momentum going. I think that, they're going to go for, if they're going for a new quarterback, it's going to be an upgrade. And then they're going to just, I think Carr's good enough to get you where you want to go.
I don't know. I think they could rebuild. I don't think it's crazy to think if they got. I mean, they did just fire their GM and head coach, so it doesn't seem like they're like completely like, no, we have to keep this momentum.
Yeah, but you still got good young players on your team, though. Obviously, the problem is that they lost some draft picks to, extenuating circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I still think that there's good young players on this team. Like, how far back can you actually go? I think with this roster.
I don't know. I mean, but like how many? I mean, I guess so. Because again, they're weird because they miss on all their first round picks, but then get these gems in the later rounds. So it's kind of a weird thing with them. But yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know.
Even if they trade Carr, how much could they bottom out? I guess is my question.
No, I don't think they should trade. Well, I mean, if they traded Carr and replaced him with like Jacoby Brissett, like I think they'd be bottom out pretty hard.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
fair
Yeah,
enough. Okay.
I wouldn't trade Derek Carr. I'm just saying I think it's an option on it. I wouldn't have traded Matthew. I'm not sure if I would have traded Matthew Stafford either, although he requested a trade. But that's different stuff. Dolphins. Dolphins are a team that I thought about, and I almost didn't put them on here. But then once I thought about them, it's like no, there has been some questions here. They are a Deshaun Watson thought of team. They're a team that maybe could look. We don't know how they feel about Tua. Do they trade with the Raiders for Derek Carr and give Tua in that package or something? Where do you have the Dolphins? I have the Dolphins keeping Tua, but where do you have them going?
Kind of unexciting. I have them keeping Tua too.
Uh-huh.
It seemed like from basically what I heard, just as they, were going through the process of getting rid of Brian Flores and looking for a new coach, it sounds like part of the new coach hire was to help Tua succeed. Like, unless there was a going belief in the interview process that Tua is not going to succeed as a starter, I think they're going to exhaust every possibility that he's a good starting quarterback before they move on. I think he's going to go back for at least one more season.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think that I want to see Tua with a better offensive line. I feel like, and the talent around him was not great this year. And I thought he showed some nice things. Now he had some bad moments as well. He's not a perfect quarterback, but as a whole, I think I was impressed with Tua, more impressed with Tua than I thought I would be when coming into the season. So I want to see if that upward trajectory continues. I think he's earned a right for a third year. But again, maybe they'll feel like, hey, if we can get Deshaun Watson, we'll take that. But I would keep with Tua for one more year.
I agree. I think that's probably what's going to happen for now.
Yeah. All right. Saints. Who do you have going to the Saints?
I did draft. I think they're going to draft a guy. I think it's time to start over for this team. This team needs talent, and I think that they're going to, like I keep saying this, and they keep kind of doubling down on what they have. I do think eventually they're going to have to trade off some of these pieces and rebuild. Their cap situation is kind of funky. They need to kind of get back under. I think that they try and rebuild, add some new receivers to this team, and draft a quarterback and kind of restart on the offense side of the ball.
Interesting. Yeah. So I went with Jameis Winston. I think Winston stays there. I think that they kept. We'll talk about the head coaching in a second, but they kept Dennis Allen. And I think that with keeping Dennis Allen, they're going to kind of keep a similar vibe. I think they want to see if they can run it back. Winston did look solid in his short time there. He didn't look. I didn't think he looked like fantastic. Some people kind of said like, "Oh, he's been fixed." I'm not sure if I go that far, but keep a similar system. Keep him for one more year. I think he'll want to go back. He seems like he's more interested in giving him opportunities to play better and be he's going to make the career move as opposed to make just like the move to give him the most money. I think Winston stays with New Orleans.
I could see that situation too. By the way, everyone, Ben here disliked and unsubscribed, so moment of silence for Ben. We're gonna miss him. Anyways, so yeah, I think I could definitely see a situation where Jameis comes back. I also think they draft a quarterback though. I think it is time to kind of restart this thing, and I do think that they're gonna need to invest in the position eventually outside of paying Taysom Hill. So I do think that they do draft a quarterback, even if they bring in a cheap vet like Winston.
Yeah, I could see that as well. The Lions. I have the Lions keeping Jared Goff. and also drafting a quarterback. Whether it might not necessarily be with the number 2 overall pick, but I think they get a quarterback along with Goff being the bridge guy for this one more year.
Yeah, I put draft for this one too. I think that they're going to I think they're going to call around about Goff. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know like if anyone's going to take, but I do think that they're going to call and basically offer him.
Sure.
You
Hmm.
know, so I think that's pretty much the move. But yeah, I do think that they draft a quarterback this year. This team needs new starters. This team's young. It's in the perfect rebuild chance, and I think that's the direction they go in.
Yeah. Broncos, I have similar. I have them drafting a quarterback. I also think they'll sign sort of a veteran guy. I ended up going with Andy Dalton here. Now, I don't know if they keep it, if Andy Dalton's the only guy. I kind of just put one there, but like it could be Teddy Bridgewater. It could be someone else, but, or probably not Teddy Bridgewater because they just did that, but, could be Jacoby Brissett or whatever. But I think the Broncos draft someone and also go with. I don't think that they let another quarterback walk after the criticism they got last year.
Yeah, I think so. I think that they're going to get a guy. I put draft for them as well, but yeah, I do think that they bring somebody in. Um, they're gonna, they're definitely gonna go for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's too many, obvious moves to
Hmm.
say that it's not going to happen. They're gonna go for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's going to end up happening, but they're at least going to call and ask. It doesn't seem like it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna work out though. But yeah, so I do have them drafting a quarterback, probably going for a replacement level player like Bridgewater for the year to compete with that guy as well.
Yeah, I think I agree. Actually, for the next two, we'll do these a little bit together because they're similar. For the Panthers and Texans, I did the same thing. They're both going to draft a guy, but then also keep a veteran. So I actually put Teddy Bridgewater back at the Panthers, but now when I'm thinking about it, that might not make sense. And I put Marcus Mariota with the Texans. So maybe flip those around. But again, just kind of the bridge guys along with who maybe do have some potential, along with drafting the guy that's really going to be the guy for Panthers and Texans.
I have Deshaun Watson to the Panthers.
Gotcha. I
Um,
thought about that as well.
yeah, I know their owner wants to be aggressive. He's new to the game. He wants to, have a big time quarterback. I do think that if one team gets really aggressive and goes for it, I think Carolina is going to be eventually the one to go for that move. Texans, I just put Davis Mills. I wouldn't be surprised if they
Hmm.
draft a quarterback to compete with them, but I'm willing to say Davis Mills earned a second year. Now the good news is that the Texans are still going to be bad. So like
Mhm.
this
That
team's
is
not
good
going to
news.
they're not going to
Mhm.
miraculously get good. So why not just continue why not, increase the sample size with this quarterback and see what it is. He showed some flashes that he could be a good starting quarterback. Why not just throw him out there, see what you can do, and then worst case you're starting over next year, which you're probably going to have to start over next year anyways. So I think I went Davis Mills here.
I guess, do we really think that, like, I guess here it's the thing, it's like, i- it's not the worst option in the world. I think that they should at least, like, that's why I have them. I said draft and Marcus Mariota. I think you at least bring in like a Marcus Mariota. You bring in someone who maybe has some potential. Maybe a Sam Darnold. I don't think is the wildest thing in the world to do. Of just like, take a flyer on someone who has a chance. And if you're going to keep Davis Mills, but like, what are we really going to get from Davis Mills? Like, yes, he does some nice things. There's a reason why he was drafted. It's because he does some nice things. But he still is Davis Mills. There still are all these issues that, like, we know who. I think that, nobody said that Davis Mills shouldn't be a first round quarterback because he does zero nice things in the NFL. It feels a little bit like the Gardner Minshew thing with the Jaguars, right? They keep Minshew for an extra year and then kind of said, like, well, what are we doing? Like, he's not going to end up being like a top 10 quarterback. Like, Davis Mills might be able to have some talent, but is his ceiling top 10 quarterback? I just don't think it is.
I don't think it is either, but I think that they're going to see. I mean, we've been wrong about this stuff, so I think it's perfectly
Hmm.
possible that he's good. I think that they're going to see. I guess here's the thing. So, no team should ever limit itself on what they want to do at the position, right? The quarterback position is just too important. So,
Hmm.
if they love an a college prospect in the draft, go draft that guy and go for it. This is the Cardinals thing with drafting Kyler Murray, even though they had chosen Rosen on the roster. You know,
Hmm.
if they love a prospect, go and get him. But if they don't love a prospect, I don't think anything hurts with having Davis Mills as a starter for one more season.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess not. I guess if you don't love anything else, then sure. But yeah, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I put Jimmy G here. Who do you have for the Steelers?
I have Garoppolo as well.
Okay.
This seems like okay. If you're gonna talk about Jimmy Garoppolo's skill set, this feels
Mhm.
like the perfect fit, right? It's a
Uh-huh.
quick passing team. You got some speedy receivers that you can work with on the outside. You got some, you got a bigger receiver in Claypool that's a little sure-handed. You got a good tight end on that group. You have a good running back you can work with. You increase some, get some better pieces on the offensive line. I don't think Garoppolo is a bad option to have there, and you can kind of tread water with that AFC North, which is quickly becoming really competitive.
Yeah, and I also think the other thing is this could be a draft team as well, but I feel like they're a team that feels like they can be competitive next year. I don't know if that's true, but they made the playoffs last year. I think they might feel like, oh, we can do this again, and we can be competitive. We just need decent quarterback play. Jimmy Garoppolo might be an upgrade from what Big Ben. In fact, I think he is an upgrade from what we saw from Big Ben last year. So it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, he's definitely an upgrade. So I definitely think they bring him in, or I don't want to say definitely. I do think that
Mhm.
he'd be a good fit for the team. So yeah, I do think that would make a lot of sense. That's why I put him there, and I think that it's a good fit for Pittsburgh. And I think yes, like you said, this team. I mean, when have the Steelers ever really been terrible? Like
Yeah, and not since you have to go back a while. I think I did the. It's been a minute.
yes. So,
Hmm.
I don't think this is a franchise looking to be terrible and bottom out and rebuild. I think they're going to continue to retool this thing and then eventually hope they find a quarterback that way. And I don't think Garoppolo is not one of the five worst starters in football. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Who ends up with the Browns?
I put Baker.
Hmm.
This is another team that I think that they're going to call for everybody, right?
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
this team's ready to be good. Like this
Hmm.
team's ready to be really really good. Like if there's a quarterback grumbling of it, this quarterback's unhappy, they're going to throw everything they can at Aaron Rodgers. They're going to throw everything they can at um, Kyler Murray. They're going to throw everything they can at Russell Wilson. They'll probably throw everything they can at Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Matt Ryan. They'll probably throw everything they can at all these guys. I just don't know if
Hmm.
there's going to be a team willing to do it. I don't know if they're going to find a seller is the problem. And then at that point, it's like, okay, if they strike out on all of those guys, do we say, okay, do we want to bring in a Carson Wentz? Do we want to bring in a Jared Goff? Do we want to bring in a Sam Darnold? Or do we just hope Baker Mayfield's healthy next year and it plays better? Like, I think eventually that they'll just look at it and say, let's see if without the shoulder injury, he's okay next season. There's really no point in bringing in a Goff over that guy.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, like, if you made a trade, like with the Vikings or with the Falcons, you do have Baker Mayfield, who is an asset in the trade. It's not quite like the Jared Goff thing with the Rams, where it's like he's kind of more, some consider him a negative asset as opposed to a positive one. Like, the Vikings would, if they're going to get rid of Cousins, like they'll probably take Baker Mayfield at least for a year, see what they have there. So there's some logic there. I think the Browns probably. I agree. I think that this makes a lot of sense for them getting Kirk Cousins or getting Matt Ryan, but it just seems like the guy who it's most likely they end up with is going to be the guy currently on the roster.
Yeah. I mean, if this team could get Cousins I would get, if this team could get Cousins, I would do it. I
Yeah.
would do it right now because I
Hmm.
think this team with Kirk Cousins is probably at least competing for an AFC Championship game appearance.
Hmm.
This roster's really good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean they still probably need to add a receiver, but I do think this roster's really good, and I think they're in a position. I think if anything that they're just going to try and retool around Baker and make a run at a guy like Devontae Adams or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, and of course there's the Kevin Stefanski, Kirk Cousins. They were in Minnesota together, so there's that extra thing. The Colts, I kind of have the same thing. I think the Colts will look around, door number two, but probably end up with Carson Wentz for another year. Who I don't know. I don't think Wentz was a complete mess last year. Maybe I'm crazy. I thought that there was some like okay, it didn't end well, but there were like I felt like 16 weeks into it, it felt like this was a win for the Colts, like compared to like what we all expected before it happened. And then obviously the week 18 happened and that kind of, but like, I don't think Carson Wentz is like a terrible quarterback.
No, I thought he was fine last year. You're right. I thought, there's still things about him that scare me, but
Hmm.
I thought for large chunks of the year he was pretty good. And then obviously he lost to the Jaguars, and everyone, turned on Carson Wentz.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I do think he ends up there. This is the same thing as the Browns. They're going to call everybody under the sun. They're probably going to strike out with everybody. Um, And also, this is probably one of the few teams Deshaun Watson won't be traded to. Like,
Mhm.
like why would the Texans do that to themselves? So I think that I think that they're going to strike out a lot, and then they're just going to go back on Carson.
Yeah, and they're also not a big free agency signing team, so I'm not sure if they'll go that way anywhere. The Commanders here, the Washington Commanders, formerly known as the Washington Balls, formerly known as the Washington R words. I have them keeping Ryan Fitzpatrick and drafting the quarterback as well.
I have them drafting and keeping Taylor Heineke. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like Fitzpatrick's going to retire. It might just be me, but
Okay.
I feel like he could. I wouldn't be surprised.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I do think that they keep one of those two quarterbacks and then draft somebody. So yeah, I think that they draft. I think it makes sense. I think this team probably needs some fresh blood in the organization.
Yeah, it seems like that. I mean, again, it's nice what they've done. Nice. They made great. They made the playoffs without really anything at the quarterback position. Okay, great. Now let's try to get something at the quarterback position. That's kind of how I feel. Their division rival, the New York Giants. I have them keeping Daniel Jones, but I also have them. I have them adding Mitchell Trubisky here. There's some logic here with Brian Dable, who was with Trubisky was in Buffalo last year. I think now he comes over to the Giants as the backup there, and again another one of these backups with some potential. Perhaps I don't think Trubisky's awful. I think he's a good backup, and he has done some. I also think Trubisky might get a little bit more attention just given how bad this situation in Chicago has been since he left. People might think, oh, maybe he's just in a horrible situation, so that might help his stock a little bit. And for a team who doesn't know if Jones is the guy, you're getting another guy who probably isn't the guy, but at least there is that 1% chance. It's better than getting like a Tyrod Taylor who you kind of just know who he is.
Yeah, and I think there's some logic to it because I think it's someone who knows his offense well, Having
Exactly.
someone in the building who knows his offense, I think that'll help. Um, I just put Daniel Jones, but I think the Trubisky move also makes a ton of sense. But yeah, I do think that they're going to run it with Jones 1 year, see what they have, and then probably move on because it's Daniel Jones.
Yeah, a couple guys I didn't mention: Nick Foles, Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, and Tyrod Taylor. Those guys could potentially fall in line somewhere as well. There's also the whole Tom Brady thing of like, is he going to come back? I don't think he is, but I also feel like kind of threw that around. If he says I'm coming back and I want to play for San Francisco, and so either trade me to San Francisco or I'm going to stay or I'm going to retire. Like for Tampa Bay, you just say, okay, well then retire then, right?
I mean, I would say so, but at the same
Hmm.
time, like it could be like a free second round pick, like
Yeah. Hmm.
that doesn't hurt because he's not going to play for you. If you can get a second round pick for someone who doesn't play for you, that might
Hmm.
not hurt. It's just 1 year probably.
Right. Yeah. And for San Francisco, you're not saying like, sure, take our second round pick. Take whatever pick we have. And that, like, yeah, I guess that maybe could work. All right. So that's the quarterback carousel. Interesting stuff. Look forward to seeing how we're wrong about all of that. Coming up in the next month or so. Let's go to the let's do the draft of the new head coaches. Why don't we? I think this is the next interesting thing. Kyle, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first here? This is our favorite head coaches that just recently got hired.
Um, you can go first. That's fine.
Okay. Give me Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins. He's from the Shanahan coaching tree now. A very good press conference guy. Who knows how much that matters, but it seems like he has a lot of good sound bites. Seems like a very good teacher, and I kind of like part of why I feel like the young guys from that Shanahan tree tend to work out pretty well, or the McVay tree tend to work out pretty well, is because kind of the mindset of, and he talked about this himself, of like they want to knowingly be different. They want to knowingly they talked about when he was asked, why do you do these pitches just to run up the middle where most teams do it to the left or the right? And he kind of said, well, because it's different. That's the whole reason why we do it, is because it might just give us a half step. And that's going against the grain will give you an inherent advantage. I think it's a smart way of football, smart philosophy. It clearly works. And I think that they should do some nice things in Miami. Again, kind of weird why get rid of Flores in the first place, but I like Mike McDaniel as a hire.
I do too. So I guess I'll preface this with I thought there was. I mean, really, at the same time, I didn't really have a problem with 8 of the hires. I thought 6 were kind of home runs. I thought 2 were kind of on the fence. I
Hmm.
thought they were good hires, and then 1 I didn't really like. Um,
I wonder which one that one will be.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I really like the McDaniel hire. I had a little bit lower on the list because I like some assistant coaches more. But at
Sure.
the same time, I really like the hire. I think it makes perfect sense for Miami, and I think it makes perfect sense for what they want to do in trying to develop Tua and seeing what you got out of Tua. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, should be fun. Number 2, where are you going?
All right, I went on a whole rant about this, so I feel like I have to double down and pick this guy.
Mhm.
I'm going with Matt Eberflus.
Okay.
I really like the hire. I think that the Colts defense was organized. They developed talent really well. They revitalized talent really well. If you're looking at guys like Xavier Rhodes, who kind of came back and, jump started their career again. I think it's
Mhm.
a modern NFL defense that plays deep safeties, which is important nowadays. And I think it's going to work out. I think he's a good coach, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a good job for the Bears to get a guy like that. And then they're going to have to surround their offensive side of the ball with talent and get good offensive coaches. But at the same time, like that's the same thing for offensive coaches. They have to hire good defensive coaches in their staff. So
Sure.
I'm not really worried about it. I think that I think he has a proven record of A, developing talent, B, revitalizing older talent, and running the modern defense, which I think is important in today's game. As you saw two deep safety teams in the Super Bowl compete against each other. So I like the hiring.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of logic behind it. I agree with you. I'm a little bit lower on that. I actually had a number of guys, again, similar to you. I had a number of guys ahead of him, but I get the logic behind it. And kind of, I think the strategy for the Bears, I would assume, is now let's spend all of the capital we have, excuse me, all the capital we have, everything, all our resources, let's put on the offensive side of the ball and hope that Eberflus can just coach up the defense, basically. That seems like the logic, right?
It seems like it. I mean, I do think that they're going to have to add guys in that secondary because it wasn't a good secondary.
Sure. Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, like if this team all of a sudden kind of turns it around quickly, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. Like I think there's good players on this team. They got a really good defensive line. They got some talent. Mooney I think is a real guy. Montgomery is a real guy. Fields still has a ton of talent, even though it's going to take a little bit for him to get there. I think there's still talent on this team that could be pretty decent going forward. Even and I like the hiring. So yeah, I do think he could turn around this defense.
I mean, I'm gonna throw this out there. The two guys you said that are real guys for the talent are Mooney and David Montgomery. I'm not saying those are bad players, but it's not quite not quite saying like Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Cup here.
Not quite, but
Mhm.
I do think it's at least a building block. They
I was
need
thinking,
stars, but
I had a thought right there of the least amount of stars a team has, the quicker you get to their halfback. I think that's typically how it works. Or when Montgomery being number 2 isn't a great sign.
that's fair. They need more talent on offense. But
Yeah. Mhm. I
I
think they're
like
a bit. I think they're a bit away.
we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
I still think that they got have some good pieces though. Khalil Mack? Huh?
Sure, sure, absolutely, yeah. I'm not saying they don't have anyone. There might not be this year's Cincinnati Bengals. Is all I'm saying.
That's fair. But
Mhm.
let's give it a couple years with Eberflus. I believe in the guy.
Sure. Uh, I'll take I'll take the Super Bowl winner. I'll take Doug Peterson here, number 3, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, you know, I think that there's a real chance that this is a home run. There's a chance that the swing and a miss as well. Like this is definitely a boom or bust hire. But okay, if it's a bust, then in 2 years you get a new guy. If it's a boom, then you have a good head coach who has shown he could be a modern head coach. He's analytically inclined. He won a Super Bowl using fourth down decision making way better than every other coach did. He, this RPO style stuff, I think can make things simpler for Trevor Lawrence. I know that people there's always this debate of was it Frank Reich or was it Doug Peterson in Philadelphia? Well, I mean, he hired Frank Reich, so he clearly had some hand in it, regardless of how you feel. I don't know if he deserves all the blame for Carson Wentz forgetting how to play quarterback, and maybe he does. I don't know, but I think that there's a very good chance this works out. Also, a very good chance it bombs though. So this is the boomer bust for me.
I had it as a good hire. It wasn't my favorite hire. I had it a little lower on the list again, but I do see the logic behind it, especially
Hmm.
with how bad the last hire was. Maybe you want a guy with a little more experience as a head coach.
Uh
I think
huh.
that makes sense. Um, we'll see if because I do think the thing is like I think there was obviously some good things with him in Philadelphia. He won a Super Bowl, so there's some good things. But I also think there's a reason why he's fired. And I think he's going to, let's see how he learned through his mistakes at the end of that tenure. If he learns through his mistakes at the end of that tenure, I think it'll help. But at the same time, that Philly roster kind of got gutted after that Super Bowl. And I think that was kind of a worse roster than we thought it was. So I think that also added to it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, where are you going number 4 here?
All right, I'm going to go with the other Super Bowl winner, just officially hired, known Kevin O'Connell. I got O'Connell here, kind of for the same reason you picked McDaniel. Younger coach from that tree, from that McVay Shanahan tree. I think he makes a lot of sense there. And he's going into a pretty good situation as far as offensive coaches. This offense was good last year, and I think it's going to be pretty good again this year, especially when he's not going to, run the ball up the middle as much, hopefully.
Yeah, well, let's hope not. Although, again, given the way that Super Bowl went, I mean, let's hold our breath a little. But yeah, no, I like this move as well. Again, I think it's rare that I'm going to hate a move when you're getting someone from the Sean McVay tree. It seems like that tends to be a pretty good move.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I don't have anything else to add. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he does, but I think he's going in. This might be the best situation for a head coach this year, right?
Well, you're really high on the Vikings. I am not this high on. I mean, I think there's a couple that I don't know. I would say no. I don't think I'm that high on the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings have clear pieces that you can build around, but I don't know if they're like. I mean, it seems like they need an entire defense.
I don't know about an entire defense. There's still some good players on that defense.
Name 3.
Harrison Smith, Danielle Hunter, Anthony Barr.
I guess so, but I mean, what's the combined? Is the combined age of those guys 100?
Maybe, but they're still decent players.
I guess so. I'm not saying that they're a mess, but sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I wouldn't be shocked if this team's at 10 wins next year.
I guess so. I think that's fair. They seem like a good team to win a decent amount of games now. The question is, how do you get to being the best team in football? Which I think they're kind of in a weird spot of how to get there, I guess is the way I'm doing it.
That's fair, but at the same time, I think all of these teams are a long way from being the best team in football. That's why they're hiring new coaches.
Well, sure, but like I guess like it's almost like the bowl is most useful when it is empty kind of thing. Of like the Jaguars, it's like you have a bunch of young players, you have a bunch of draft picks. Like, okay, make that work. I think I would almost prefer that situation to a Viking situation where it's like you have a bunch of decent players. What do you do?
Interesting. I think I'd take the Vikings still, but
okay.
I understand the logic. So yeah, we can move on from that. Who do you
number
got?
Number 5?
Next?
Yeah. Number 5, I'm going to pick the another guy, Nathaniel Hackett, kind of a similar thing to Kevin O'Connell. I put him in sort of the same tier. He's in the Matt LaFleur coaching tree, and also I just like how there's that tie-in with Aaron Rodgers, and I think that added value. I think I give him some credit for that. Give the higher credit for that. Like, sure, that makes sense, and I think it could work anyways. It's kind of this new school head coach. So I like this hire.
Yeah, I mean, like. If they get Rodgers, this is the best hire of the offseason.
Right.
Yeah. He could call, he could burn all of his challenges in the first 5 minutes of the game for all games. If he gets Aaron Rodgers, I don't really care.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like this hire too. I liked it. And same thing, same coaching tree, same offensive minds. We kind of expect this to look the same. Obviously, the biggest thing with this coach and taking over this job is there's one question that usually a lot of coaches have. What's your quarterback situation? I think this is the murkiest quarterback situation right now, unless they get Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, this seems like it's, every team it starts with what's your quarterback. This seems like it's amped up to 11 for the Denver Broncos.
I mean, it always kind of has been under the Elway era, hasn't it?
Yeah.
He's just managed to figure it out.
Retired.
Yeah. And, taking over the front office role, it's who are they getting at quarterback? They worked out with Manning, but, a lot of misses too.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, next one. Where are you going?
A couple of these guys I'm pretty surprised still on the list, but I like a lot of these hires. I'm going with Dennis Allen. I like Dennis Allen in New Orleans. I liked what he did with his defense. I think it's, perfect transition for a new coach, just going from, being promoted in that role. And I think he's going to do a good job. And I like this team. on the defensive side of the football. So I like Dennis Allen here.
Yeah, I was trying to. We don't often see the internal hire. It's not it's a very unique situation. I think he'll probably do a fine job of, and he was even he was head coach for a game. This is not something he hasn't done before. I think that he should be able to continue doing it, but at the same time, this Saints team is. They're in a bit of a rough spot right now. They have a tough cap situation, as we know. Cap doesn't really exist, but still, they have a tough cap situation. And also, you have what quarterback do you have, what receivers do you have, but I think that he should at least be able to maintain the culture and all of that stuff, which has been very good under Sean Payton. So you have that.
Yeah, so I think it works out, even if they kind of have to tear down and rebuild, which they might. But I do think I do still like the hire. I like the decision behind it.
Yeah. So for next number 7 here out of the 9 new head coaches, I'm going Brian Dable. I think Dable has. I think he's a clear upgrade from the other 2, in my opinion. Some people might be surprised he goes this far. I actually had him at number 6 on my list, and he goes here at 7. Listen, there's some really good stuff with Dable, obviously. The Josh Allen stuff, and Josh Allen was not a finished product, and he definitely did some great work with that. I don't know how much credit. I don't know how much he did. We weren't in the room, but he gets a lot of credit, and for a good reason, because it worked out really well. The question though is, can he do that with Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones, I don't think. Me for a second. Okay, no, we're good. We're back.
Oh, you're back. All right.
Okay. Lost me for a second, but seems like we're all right. I was just saying the hope with the Giants, of course, is can Brian Dable do what he did to Josh Allen to Daniel Jones? I don't know if that's exactly possible, but maybe it's, what can he do that to the next guy? His entire coaching tenure hasn't been fantastic, but that one big bright spot on his resume is the clear thing. Another Belichick coaching tree guy here going to the Giants.
Yeah, it is pretty surprising. Like, I guarantee you some people would have him ranked number 1 on coaching hires. And I would understand it too if he was ranked number 1. That being said, like, he wasn't a very good coach for like a lot of years before that Bill situation, and he was coaching for a while. It's not like this was the hottest name on the prospect board for 10 years, and he's finally getting this opportunity. He kind of middled around for a little bit, and then got this opportunity with Buffalo and made the most of it. I kind of agree with what you said though, because it's tough. Because it's like I think everything on Dayball is basically being, everything on his hiring is going to be developing another Josh Allen, and I don't know if he's going to find another Josh Allen. And if that's basically what's going to determine his success, I don't know how much I buy it. So that's the only problem I have. But I do think it's a good hire, and I see the logic behind it. So I get it. But yeah, I do think that it's a tough task, and I think this Giants team's kind of a mess right now.
Yeah, I had it as, I think there was, if there were tiers, I think, the top 6, in my opinion, were all in the same tier. I was not as high on Eberflus, who you are, could not be higher on. But other than that, and I didn't hate him either. I think all these top 7, I wouldn't be shocked or even surprised if they work. I think I like all of them. There is 2 more on this list, Kyle. I think I know where you're going. Are you going with your guy, Josh McDaniels, here at number 8?
Yeah, I'm going to go with McDaniels. Look, I think that there's logic to McDaniels, and I don't hate it. I don't hate this hire. I think it's fine. This is another guy with, as head coaching experience. Let's see how much he has learned since the last time he was head coach. Let's see how much he's willing to delegate some of this stuff as a head coach, because I think that was the biggest problem is he wanted too much input on everything. I think he's one of the better play callers in the NFL, and I don't know how that's going to translate to coaching success. We'll see. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think he fits nicely with Derek Carr. I think Carr is going to work well in this offense. I don't know how the rest of the team's going to work, and I don't know how it's going to look. That's what I'm worried about with McDaniels.
Is there some concern with also someone like McDaniels who's worked with Bill Belichick for so long? This could be kind of I guess you could swing it both ways, but I think there's some concern of he could still bring all those old school tactics that Bill Belichick has of, kind of how he is a bit of definitely an older school head coach, but not having the incredible defensive play calling that Bill Belichick has to kind of make up for it.
Well, and he also doesn't have like the reputation to kind of be that old school hardened head coach too. Is the
Right.
problem, and
Mhm.
I think that's what a lot of Patriots coaches have run into when they're kind of viewed as just kind of assholes. Um,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know, so huh. Um,
You good?
yeah, yeah, I heard something outside. That was all.
Oh,
But
okay.
anyway, yeah, I do think if they run the same offense, I think in Las Vegas, I almost say Oakland. Um, I do think Carr's going to be awesome. I just worry about the rest of the stuff when it comes to McDaniels.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and that's why I still I don't hate this hire either. I think, but it's maybe a little bit. I feel like he could have gotten a little bit more creative here, and they decided not to. Was my only thought. Number 9, Lovey Smith, your guy. You love some Lovey here. The Lord and Savior himself, first guy ever to be the head coach of 3 different NFL franchises. Your thoughts on Lovey Smith?
You're just putting me on the spot.
Hmm.
Um, I don't love it.
Mhm. I mean, you were very when it was rumored, you were very against that idea.
Yes, I mean, this guy's basically failed up since failing out at Tampa Bay. He
Mhm.
went to Illinois, wasn't very good at Illinois, went back to the NFL, got the defensive coordinator job, wasn't a good defensive coordinator, and now he's a head coach. And I don't know, like this is a situation where you kind of had this old tenured head coach last year who was this longtime assistant, and then you went ahead and scrapped that idea, and then you're going back with the long tenured coach. I don't know. I didn't love the hire. I don't think a lot of the stuff he does is just archaic to me. I don't think it works. I don't think his defense works. I think this team's got a talent discrepancy, which obviously is going to hurt the situation. But I don't know if in the long run he's going to be here very long.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I'll play devil's advocate for a second. Uh, the one thing about Lovey Smith is it seems like the players always seem to like him. It seems like he's one of those guys who like I remember when he was in Tampa Bay, which I thought he kind of got a raw deal when he got fired. He wasn't great when he was with us. They won 8 games in 2 seasons, but at the same time, I kind of felt like the talent wasn't very good, and I also felt like there was, they wanted to have Dirk Cutter, which was a weird thing, so that didn't work out. But I thought he got kind of a raw deal when he got fired. I thought it was a year too early, and also he is someone who it seems like the players tend to like him. If he can nail the like offensive and defensive coordinator stuff, I think there's a world where Lovey Smith exists in the NFL. I guess the question is, uh, you know, I don't love his defense. I don't maybe dislike it as much as you do, but I still don't love it. And like, is he still just too old school of a guy? The answer is probably yes.
I would say probably too.
Hmm.
So yeah, obviously the best case scenario is like you said, he's the player's coach. He has really good assistants that are running a lot of that stuff. Schematically handling that stuff. He's working on player morale and having some input, obviously, in this game because you can't just be not care. But yeah,
Right.
I kind of see it. I just think it's really hard, and I think it's hard to hire assistants, and so I just don't see it working out. And if you're gonna have to rely on the assistants that much, then it's probably the wrong coaching hire.
Hmm.
So I don't love the move. I don't think it was a good fit for Houston. Um, and yeah, I don't really like anything about it.
Doesn't it feel like this is one of those things where like they fired David Coley thinking they were going to get someone, and then like no one wanted to coach for the Texans, so they were like, oh wait, now we have to scramble and get someone that will agree to coach with us. And Lovey Smith's like, yeah, sure, I'll take some more money to coach for probably 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a very real possibility. I mean, they had the Flores interview, and then that happened.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think the problem is like what, like how many times are you going to keep doing this before you just say like enough of this? Like your franchise is in that bad of a situation that nobody wants the job. Like it seems crazy that there's 32 NFL head coaching jobs, and it's a possibility that one of them is just like impossible to hire.
Yeah, well, I mean that also happens when you trade away your superstar wide receiver for a second round pick. You give up your first round pick, and then end up being what was it, the third worst team in football, and they've multiple times traded away a pick that ended up being a top 5 pick in football. Like that kind of puts you behind the 8 ball a little.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So those are the head coaching hires. We're an hour in, so we can touch on this other stuff though. Let's do the thoughts on the awards so far. So I don't know if you have any big things to talk about, but we can maybe touch on some of it, like the rookie of the years, Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons. I guess yeah, we'll rookie of the years, Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons. Like defensive player of the year was T.J. Watt, offensive player was Cooper Kupp. Do you have any thoughts on those?
No, I think those all make sense. Like, obviously, Mac got conversation, but I think Chase was just way too good at the end of the season to
Hmm.
even make it a conversation. But so yeah, I think Chase makes perfect sense, and I think those are all the right picks.
Yeah, I think the other thing you could say is you could argue like Aaron Donald over TJ Watt, just because you could argue like Aaron Donald always deserves defensive player of the year, but TJ Watt tying the sack record, I think like you're always going to get it if you tie one of those records.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Hmm.
and same thing with Cup and the offensive stuff. But I mean, I thought he was by far the best offensive player this year. So,
Yeah, for comeback player of the year, Joe Burrow won it. Do you think it's weird how comeback player of the year always is just like a player who has a good season after an injury, or is that not?
I mean, isn't that kind of what the award's designed for? I don't know.
I
Like,
always feel like the design is like someone who like comes out of nowhere. I mean, maybe that's like someone who like has had some rough seasons, but then comes back and like a Matthew Stafford, I think would be a great example of like a comeback player of the year who like was the star, but then kind of sputtered a little bit and then had a really good season with the Rams.
yeah.
Although that was more of a really good postseason, but like something like that, I think would be interesting.
Well, I made the argument last year that Xavier Rhodes should have won it because he was just terrible
Hmm.
for like 3
Right.
years.
Uh huh.
And I think that would have made sense. But yeah, I mean, this kind of just turned into this award. You're right. I honestly like when they announced this, I was pretty surprised. I thought it was basically a sure thing going to be Dak because it was
Hmm.
such a public injury that happened. Like,
Right.
like I almost forgot for a second that Joe Burrow was injured last year. I was like, oh wait,
Hmm.
yeah, he missed his year. So it was
Hmm.
kind of funny to see that, but I think it makes sense to pick Burrow too, given the circumstances.
Yeah. Also, a little funny how someone won a comeback player of the year in their second season.
Yeah, yeah, I
Mhm.
thought that is a little odd, but
Uh, Makes sense though. I get it. Yeah. For I guess coach of the year, Mike Vrabel got it. I thought he was deserving. I probably would have given it to Matt Lafleur, but like I don't hate Vrabel getting it.
yeah, I think the thing is like I think we're Matt Lafleur fans and we just want to see it happen because he's
Hmm.
been amazing his first 3 years as a coach.
Sure.
Um, but Vrabel, what he had to deal with, I mean that I don't see a lot of coaches having the same success he did.
Yeah, I guess so. It's one of those weird things where like the team just like overperformed, like which is I guess that's the coaching's job is to get you more talent out of and more wins out of your talent, and that's what he did. I don't know how much of that was just like they happened to win games, or how much of that like I didn't think the X's and O's were incredible, but like the defense did vastly improve, so he was deserving. I think I'd give a slight edge to the floor, but if you want to give it to Vrabel, I'm not mad at that either. I guess MVP Aaron Rodgers wins it. Yeah, I'm sure you were thrilled about this. I still maintained. I thought that either Brady or Burrow was probably more deserving, but Rodgers was awesome as well. I'm not mad at Rodgers winning.
Yeah, I started hearing more of the I started hearing more of the Brady stuff, and I actually think it makes sense. Like I kind of
Hmm.
turned turned around on that one a little bit. Like I
Okay.
thought Brady probably should have won it.
All right.
Um,
I was right all along.
but like I also thought Rodgers was terrific this year too, so I can't hate it too
Mhm.
much. But yeah, I mean, I thought Brady was more impactful this year. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, people bring up the well, if Rodgers had more attempts, like well, that's kind of the argument is that Brady was a bigger part of the offense, and also your efficiency does go down when you have to throw the ball more. So, but again, but Rodgers was also awesome, and Rodgers deserves he had an MVP caliber season. So I don't really hate on that either. All right, well that segment didn't take too long, so good thing we weren't too far. Good thing we're not like 30 minutes into the podcast when this happened.
Yeah, no kidding. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I did not too much debate with any of those. I felt like we pretty much knew who was going to win a lot of those.
Yeah, no big surprises, no big real intrigue things there. Zach Taylor did not win Coach of the Year. Were you surprised by that?
No, I thought So this was our next topic. So,
Hmm.
did you rewatch the Super Bowl?
Yes, I've rewatched the Super. I've watched the all 22 now, so I'm read up on it.
Did it feel like the Bengals were trying to be geniuses in this game? Because I felt like it were.
They were trying to. What was that?
I felt like the Bengals coaching staff was trying to come off as geniuses.
Interesting. I don't know about that. I mean, they definitely had a little bit of that, but I thought it was actually that they were a bit more passive than maybe they needed to be. I do think that they felt like our offensive line can't do anything. Let's try to get the ball out immediately, which kind of led to guys not getting open immediately and led to more pressure happening.
Yeah, but at the same time, part of the thing I was thinking about is like, so those end of game scenarios. Like I
Mhm.
saw the quote that he said he wanted a running play there. He called it late, so there wasn't time to put Mixon in, I guess was the argument. So
Mhm.
Piron was out there and he made an argument justifying it. But I think we saw two coaches that were willing to put the ball in their stars' hands, and then another coach who, I don't know, like even the fourth down play I didn't love. And hindsight's 2020, but at the same time, like you're basically sending because you look at the play on that 4th and 1 too after P Ryan gets stopped, which I didn't love the call. P Ryan gets stopped, 4th and 1. Burrow gets the snap and he immediately looks left to this pick play, right?
Mhm.
So that basically means Jamar Chase is running a decoy dead route. Like he's just running a go route to clear the field.
Mhm.
And that's his last basically look because at the time he looks left, he's probably going back right to look at Pirine for, a short completion.
Right.
Like, how are you not setting up a situation for Jamar Chase to get the ball there at all on two plays that you need a yard? How are you not figuring out a way for Chase to get the ball? I didn't really love that. I thought that was just trying to overthink the situation. And then in the first half, this man coverage setup they had throughout the game where they were just sprinkling it in, and we kind of said it on the post game pod. Like they kind of stumbled into something because they, Skwarnek or whatever his name is was stuck playing for the Rams, and it
Mhm.
worked out for the Bengals a little bit. But why did they do that? Why were they in man coverage? Why were they trying to catch the Rams by surprise? And it just seemed like that the Rams, anytime they caught them in man coverage, were going to kill them. And up until the Odell Beckham injury, they kind of did.
Yeah, they got very lucky with the Odell injury. That was kind of I thought this game might not have been as close as it ended up being if that didn't happen. To the 4th and 1, I think I agree. I mean, yeah, you probably should have. I guess the only thing I can think about is maybe they just didn't want Jalen Ramsey in that. You're not just keeping the ball, you're not just throwing the ball to your best player, but you're also now throwing to one of their best players as well. Maybe they just felt like they liked their second and third matchups better, and it didn't work out.
That's true, but at the same time, like it also had been working. Chase had done pretty well in this game. So I think I find a way to get him the ball there. Um, That's my only thing. But yeah, I mean, I thought, and then I was pretty harsh on the Rams thing too. I didn't love what McVay was doing, but
Hmm.
when I went back and rewatched it, it felt like that. It felt like the Rams were kind of treating this game like a Floyd Mayweather like title fight, like late career
Hmm.
Floyd Mayweather. Like they were basically just moving around, throwing some jabs, and then basically they like you looked in the first half, it was run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, a couple throws here and there, and all of a sudden it's like boom, Bengals are in single high coverage. We're going Odell Beckham wheel route for a touchdown.
Hmm.
Run the ball, short passes, run the ball, run the ball. Bengals are in man to man. Darrell Henderson's going to go on a wheel route against Trey Hendrickson. They basically just, did these things to set up the matchups they wanted, create the looks they wanted, and then pounce on those matchups. And, it looked like a Floyd Mayweather fight where they're basically, teetering away, just, casual. And then all of a sudden they jump them.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Sean McVay. I mean, I still think you didn't need to run the ball as many times as he did.
Yeah.
But I thought that, especially the second half, when it was you're down and you just really need to get stuff going. But I agree. I thought that he did a great job in this one, and maybe even learn from some of the mistakes that he had in Super Bowl 53. If he was a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more willing to throw down the field when it was available. So all that stuff was good. And also, I just don't know how much like a part of maybe why he started running the ball more than he did was just like, listen, this isn't work. Like we don't have our number 2 receiver. Like the passing game isn't working either here. So they eventually figured something out. Also, I didn't really fully appreciate that no look pass until I really got to see different angles of it. I mean, that was one of
Yeah.
the best. I mean, definitely a career highlight for Matthew Stafford. That's going to be shown for a while.
Yeah, I mean, to pull that out at that situation, I mean, that's just money, man.
Hmm.
That was pretty cool to see. And then all the angles, like you said, we saw of it, the way he moved on Bell with that play. I mean, that's high level stuff. I mean, it was impressive to see now that we saw the replay, could see it in slow motion.
Hmm.
And I mean, he fooled one of the best safeties in the game with that play. So it was impressive.
Yeah, I do think Stafford was really good in this. this entire postseason run. People are going to keep bringing up the dropped interception in the 49ers game, even though that was just a miscommunication. But I thought that he was, fantastic, and that he maybe wasn't better. You could argue he wasn't even better than Jared Goff that much in the regular season, but in the postseason there was a huge difference.
There was a huge difference. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that the first pick was a little bit worse than I thought initially.
Interesting.
Because just where they were on the field, like if he gets a 10-yard completion, they can kick a field goal. Like he didn't have to do that.
But was it open?
Well, that's the problem. But like you could figure out a way to I don't know. Like I feel like there was a better setup there than just let me just chuck it. Huh.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, or maybe I want to go back and rewatch that play now. But I also didn't think my logic on it was like, if nothing else is open, just that's a fine arm punt.
Yeah, but also like I said, you could find a way to get 6-7 yards and kick a long field goal. Or the other part of this is, I mean, it worked out because Vernon Hargreaves is an idiot. But
oh yeah, I can't believe we didn't mention that on our last podcast.
That's your guy.
I mean, only Vernon Hargreaves could do that, right?
It was pretty funny when it happened.
I knew it was him right away too, because I was like, "That's Vernon Hargreaves doing the most Vernon Hargreaves thing right here, running onto the field." Only him could be wearing street clothes and still somehow getting a penalty.
Yeah, so that worked out because you pinned him in the 10, but at the same time, wouldn't you if you can't get the 6-7 yards to kick a long field goal, wouldn't you want Johnny Hekker out there?
No, I would 1,000 times rather a 50-50 ball to try and get a touchdown in the end zone than I would.
But it wasn't a 50-50 ball. It was like a 20-80 ball.
No, when he threw it, the defense, I forget who the defensive back was. The defensive back had his back turned.
Bates.
Yeah, his back was turned the other way. There was a little bit of separation, maybe a bit underthrown, but I think that was a 50. I don't agree. I don't agree that that there was no chance it was a one-on-one matchup in the end zone. I mean, even if it's 80-20, to be honest, I think I'd still rather take that chance. I think the value of getting a touchdown is worth more than the value of pinning them deep an extra 13 yards.
Yeah, that's fair. But at the same time, I didn't think there was a chance it was getting a catch. But, he took the chance. What was the other one I was going to ask, too? I can't remember. But, oh, yeah. The offensive pass interference that turned into a touchdown, was that the biggest swing probably in Super Bowl history?
The offensive pass interference that didn't turn into so as in this
catch?
Yeah. I mean, it was. Well, I think it's hard to say. I don't know. The lights going out in the Ravens 49ers one was a pretty big swing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is yeah, that was kind of crazy. I forgot about that almost. But at the same time, if that's a clean play, Ramsey probably picks that. I think that's kind of going unnoticed. He's in front. He basically has them boxed out on the sidelines. It's getting thrown right to him. If that infraction doesn't happen, there's a good chance Ramsey's getting that ball back and potentially running it back for a big play.
Yeah. I'm making a video on this that I haven't posted yet, but I can reveal the results now for the podcast listeners. So I did a thing where I went back and I rewatched rewatched the whole game, and I tracked bad calls. And I went back and I looked at the expected value for each of these bad calls. So if the game was called perfectly, I had it as a 1.91 advantage for the Rams, as in so the Bengals got a little bit screwed by 1.91 points. It was a 5.51 point swing on that T. Higgins play. There was also one of the biggest things for the Rams that I didn't notice in real time was Aaron Donald lined up offsides on the 4th and 1 on the initial drive. And so that's a huge swing because they ended up not getting possession, but the Rams got the football and in good field position. Whereas if they called it, then they would have gotten the first down. So that was also a big swing play. That one was worth 4.16 points, whereas the T. Higgins was worth 5.51. So a couple of big swings.
Interesting. So it should have been a 1-point game instead of a 3-point game, basically.
I guess so. Yeah, you could think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. But at the same time, it's also not fair because it is a penalty. But at the same time, on that 4th and 1 play, for example, if Burrow makes the right throw to Pirine, they get the first down anyways.
Right,
So
exactly. No, it's not entirely fair because it's just more of just that happened in a big situation than it was a play that set up a big situation like the Higgins penalty was.
right. So it's I don't like blaming refs really ever. It has to be really egregious, but to me that offensive pass interference was particularly egregious. Um,
Yeah, not
and-
great.
yeah. So
Again, I still feel like, thank God that we don't have to watch that 1,000 times, even though the Bengals actually end up getting more screwed than the Rams. Like that would have been obviously largely shown for a while. It Why don't we just have a legit like a team of referees with every camera angle just and that can rewind and everything, and they can just buzz up to a referee on the field who can then throw a flag, and then they'll say that. Like, why do we not have that yet? It wouldn't slow the game down at all, and should be so like everyone in America is watching this football game. Why are we still like relying on just if someone sees something in real time as they're on the field?
well, the problem is like, I guess the thing is with that, I guess the counter argument is how close do you want it called? Like, if you have refs watching a monitor at all times, reviewing things instantly, like, do we actually want that? Because then there's going to be 100 penalty yards a game.
Well, I mean, in theory, there would just guys would stop committing those penalties. Or you could still, I mean, there's still refs. You could still say, I'm going to let that one go. Like, it doesn't mean like, you could still ref it if you want to do it that way.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know if there is a perfect situation to referee. I think no matter what, no matter what, someone's going to be unhappy. Like, the only sport that's perfected the refereeing ability is tennis, and that's all automated. It's all automated. So it's
right.
Everything can be challenged basically.
Yeah, no, there's never going to be a perfect system. I think that's totally reasonable. I think that's fair. It's always difficult to get. It's especially in football. It's such a tough sport, and we're never going to get a perfect system. I think that's fine. But like, we also have a Super Bowl, the biggest game of the year, where both teams basically got spotted a touchdown. Like, well, what if it went the complete opposite way, and one team got spotted like 14 points, and they just win the Super Bowl because of the referee? Like, that is a legitimate thing that can happen, and maybe we should like try to make that not happen as best as we can.
Well, if you ask Seahawks fans, that happened against the Steelers. So
I guess. Well, again, Steve saying with your idea, games would take 5 hours. Like, no, I'm not saying pause the game at all, but just like there's a referee, same as the referees on the field, but that is watching on the TV. They can buzz, hey, call a flag or don't call a flag. They can't stop the game to look at it and rewind it and all that stuff. It's going in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's a possibility. The problem is that, I mean, it could still take a while is the problem, because how many times does that referee on the TV get a chance to look at it before they determine if it's a flag or not?
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like, and maybe it's, I don't know, for the playoffs do this. Maybe let it take a little bit long. Like what? Like people are going to turn off the Super Bowl 3 hours in.
That's true.
Like I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying doing it for every game. I don't know. And I'm the definition of a guy who said either this or just get rid of replay altogether and just let it go. Because if we're this far away anyways, like let's just get rid of it altogether.
Yeah, you could you can test it in preseason.
Yeah, exactly. You can chat, there's all these feeder leagues. Get them to try something. Like there's things you can do.
Yeah, we could pick something meaningless like college football and throw it on there.
Yeah, we have MB in the chat says you guys really need to interact with your audience. Not trying to be a jerk. I'm just pointing out the obvious. And then ATU says, "What do you mean?" He shouted at the guy that left. Yeah, see, we're doing a great job interacting with the audience.
I didn't shout at the guy. I just gave him a moment of silence because he unsubscribed. He was that unhappy. How dare we say Matt Ryan could be traded?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're trying to interact with the audience. Listen, sometimes we gotta run a show and do this. We're doing our best. But yeah. All right, Kyle. I think that's our show.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, good show. Still going through the off-season grind. We're gonna be here every Wednesday, so make sure to tune in. And hopefully not everybody likes and unsubscribes by the end of the off-season.
Do you say likes and unsubscribes?
Hopefully nobody unlikes.
That'd be an interesting. I like the idea of someone saying, "I'm going to unsubscribe," but I'll throw them a like.
I mean, it could, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, so it should be interesting next week. Kyle, I thought next week, do you want to do, we did this last year. I thought it was a fun exercise. You want to do a draft of drafting every team and who's most likely to win the Super Bowl next year, doing it now. So that could kind of the situation and everything.
What are we drafting? Teams to win the Super Bowl next
Yeah,
year?
teams to win the Super Bowl next year.
All right. We can do that next week.
Okay. It'll be out of date in a month, but that's kind of part of the point of it.
Okay. Is the Texans going to be first or second on your list? I'm just curious.
I can't give it away, Kyle.
All right, fair enough. Texans will not be high on my list. Hot take.
Okay. Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah. So, should be interesting stuff. We'll have someone. I saw someone asking about like the draft stuff. Yeah, we will have draft content coming closer to draft season. We talk about all the free agency chaos that happens. We're just going to preview talk about stuff as they happen, and we'll find fun shows to fill in stuff in the meantime. So yeah, every Wednesday, anywhere you get your podcast on the audio only feed or here on the Jackson Kruger Sports YouTube channel. Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin. And then make sure to follow the account page. That's at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yes. So Kyle, any final thoughts on the first off-season podcast of the year?
204 days till football season. So
yes, really keeping that countdown. Yeah. Should be looking forward to it. Again, thanks to everyone for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.